Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Julie Mann and I help men and women live healthy, happy, sustainable lives. And I'm really delighted because today I'm joined by Evadne Fisher. Hi Evadne.
Hiya, how are you doing?
I'm really well, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Yes, excellent.
Good. So for those of you that don't yet know Evadne, she works as an actor, a teacher, a director, very, very multi-talented indeed. So before we get into the fact that you've worked as an actor and a TV announcer and presenter, you've also been a LAMDA examiner. How did it all start? So, tell us your story.
Well, I declared to the world at 7 I was going to be an actress. I went to a local drama school. When I was 17, I started taking auditions for drama schools, got into a couple, which was nice, but then realized that my parents would have to kind of go back 5 years because I'd had free education as a grammar school girl. They put all my two brothers and two sisters through private schools, and I was the only one that actually earned a free education. So I'd been in a really good place for a few years. I suddenly thought, well, if I'm going to now take all this money away from them again to go to drama school, it's not fair. So I wrote to every single theatre in the land, offering my services as a gopher. And Nottingham Playhouse took me up on it and said there was a scholarship available from the Arts Council to learn to be an actor actually in situ in a theatre. And would I like to audition for that? So I did, I got it, and I started on my 18th birthday at Nottingham Playhouse as a student acting ASM on the grand total of £3 a week, which was great.
Oh my goodness, I love that.
Yeah. And I had a little car, which was great. So I could poodle from home, which wasn't too far away. It was in Nottingham to work, and that was lovely. I stayed there for a couple of years, went into the West End with a play with Leonard Rossiter in. That finished, went to Wolverhampton Grand weekly rep. Then my father died. And so I came back to Nottingham. Director there, Stuart Burge, asked me if I wanted to go back and help him with the dialect on The Daughter-in-Law, which of course was Nottingham. I did. I stayed there for 6 months. I went to Derby Playhouse, so I was still close to my mum for a year. Met my first husband, got married, moved to Cardiff. Because I wasn't Welsh speaking, couldn't get any work, so became a model, a dancer, because I'd already done dancing anyway. Married, split up, went to London, became Snow White for Walt Disney on a nationwide tour, then went into PR. Then my loved one from Nottingham that I'd met and fallen in love with when I was 11, he suddenly became free, so I came back to Nottingham, went into advertising, PR, got married, had babies, became a television announcer for about 8 years, took my teaching qualifications. Then what did I do? Then I became a rep for a while because we ran out of money and we had 2 children at private school. And then I got a job as director of drama at a local school, Trent College in Nottingham. And then I was head of year 7. I stayed there. While I was there, I became an examiner for LAMDA because I was teaching LAMDA. And then so head of year 7. Then I came out of the common room because I was an examiner. Examined for 12 years, still teaching at Trent, retired from Trent, husband died, went back into acting. Yeah, that's about it. And I still teach privately, and I now act again. So yes, that's my life in a 5-minute nutshell.
My goodness, Evadne, I can hardly keep up. That's just extraordinary, really. So I want to wind back a little bit, okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because that was a fast tour of your life. So you mentioned Cardiff. That's actually where I went to drama school and really loved it. But it sounds like you didn't actually go to drama school. You just kind of which is probably an unusual story. Well, it wouldn't now for people. Now it's more unusual. Most people would go that route.
Yes, yeah. Now it's more unusual. At the time, because the Arts Council had these grants, although most people did go to drama school. I mean, my local, in those days, you didn't have student loans. You had grants from your local council to go to university or, further education. And Nottingham City Council said they would only give me a grant if I would take the teacher's course, not the acting course. And of course, at the age of 17, I wasn't going to be a teacher. I wanted to be a performer. So I told them no, and that's why my parents, not having the money, came into play. If I'd taken a teacher's course, it didn't even occur to me I could take a teacher's course and still become an actress. But, you know, it all worked out very well the way it happened, because I learnt my trade from some of the best in the business. So, you know, I was really lucky.
Leonard Rossiter, what a legend.
Absolutely. And to be in the West End with him for 9 months was excellent.
Incredible. So did you ever feel like you needed to go to drama school? Because presumably you did meet other people. No, you just, you were good to go. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I went to a drama school in Nottingham from the age of 7, which was just on Saturdays until I was 14, and then we moved to Friday nights, which was great because you went to drama after school, as opposed to giving up Saturday mornings. So I'd already done an awful lot of work, done an awful lot of parts. The drama school I was at, the local drama school I was at, was very keen on literature and Shakespeare. So I'd done a lot of Shakespeare, lots of other sort of classic plays. I'd done some restoration. The teacher was very keen on voice. So I learned all about voice, all about breathing and everything else before I was 18. And I still had the thing at the back of my mind in those days. I really didn't want to be a tree or a stone, which this is at the time I believe that that kind of training was in vogue, rather than nowadays when they do Meisner and Stanislavski, etc. They in those days they did Stanislavski and a little bit of Brecht, I believe, but this was 1967. It was a very long time ago, and it was also in the era, of course, when they got rid of all regional accents. Not that I had one then, because I'd had mine elocuted out of me from the age of 7. But yes, it was a different time.
And a very exciting time as well, the 60s, amazing.
Oh gosh, yes.
So actually knowing what you wanted to do from age 7 is, I mean, probably a lot of 7-year-olds, you know, have a dream of doing something, but maybe there are fewer people who actually end up realizing that dream, which is quite amazing. And to be an actor for the period that you have, which, you know, is more than a few years, is quite remarkable, isn't it?
Well,
so,
on and off.
Yeah. So was it that you just loved it and you wanted to do it and you really knew that, or you actually thought, yeah, I've actually got some talent? At what point did you think, well, it was maybe I'm quite good at this?
It was kind of both. Realizing my dream, and I can tell you the moment I knew, I proved to myself that I could do it, was playing Nellie in A Collier's Friday Night at Derby Playhouse. And I played some really silly parts, light-headed parts. The problem with being not bad looking as a youngster is you tended to get Juve leads, and Juve leads are notoriously boring. So I didn't get very much character work, but Nellie is a character, obviously. D.H. Lawrence's sister, supposedly, and I remember the first night of A Collier's Friday Night, and it just, I don't know, I just was Nellie. I kind of forgot myself so much that whole first night. I kind of wasn't, and I went, oh, wow, I can do this, because she was so far from my own, you know, my own person in so many ways. So I kind of then, and once I realized the silly thing is, once I realized I could do it and I was talented, when I kind of had to give it up, I was happier giving it up, because I gave it up knowing I could make it if I really pushed myself.
And is it you had to give it up because your father died and you had to go back, or was it something else?
No, it was the breakup of my first marriage, when I went back to London, and got a couple of acting jobs, but really I needed to keep a roof over my head.
Yeah, that
so
is.
I took a job as a personal assistant to a PR man, the PR man of Mecca Sportsman. So it's still very glamorous. I had a very glamorous 2.5 years there, which was brilliant. And I quite liked being totally depended upon by someone.
It's interesting that you say glamorous, because I think a lot of people, maybe because they watch the red carpet, you know, the Oscars, all that sort of stuff, they think it's a glamorous profession. And yes, sometimes the roles that we can play are glamorous, but actually the actual nuts and bolts of being an actor, you know, it's unsociable hours, you know, there are periods of unemployment, you have to learn the lines, you have to come up with the goods every single time. And
Absolutely.
you have to put up with the rejection of people saying, actually, no, you don't look right for that part, or actually, no. And you don't always get to hear what the reason, well, mostly you don't get to hear
Never.
the why.
Very rarely.
Yes.
You need the hide of a rhinoceros. All the children, all the students I've had, the ones that have wanted, I've got half a dozen that are in the business, which is quite nice, and not doing too badly. But you have to have a second job as an actor. You have to be able to do something else, because there are 2% of actors in this country actually earn over 20,000 a year. 2%.
Yes.
There's 98% that have to have another job.
Yes.
And sometimes only work once every 2 or 3 years. Supporting actors, supporting artists work a considerably lot more than actors do. And I have done a couple of supporting jobs as well in the last 6-7 years. And I quite enjoyed them, but because I've got other things that I do as well, I'm fine not paying the bills with being a supporting actor. I'm happy to wait for parts rather than walk-ons. We don't call them walk-ons anymore. You call them supporting artists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess the other thing is that people don't realise is that if you do have another income as well, alongside being an actor or a supporting actor, whatever, that actually sometimes the people that are employing you do not want you to go to an audition, that it's not okay with them that something pops up and you want to take time off. So that comes with its own challenges, doesn't it, doing something else?
Yes, it does, which is why most actors are waiters and barmen and call centers, which of course they're very good at normally in call centers, but they are, those three employers tend to accept that that you will go off for an audition. Yeah. It's very difficult to work in an office on a regular 9-to-5 job and be an actor. Teaching is another a good thing. You can usually if you teach drama, not if you, I know a couple of actors who are drama teachers, and their schools do let them off for auditions and things. But yes, it's not an easy profession by any stretch of the imagination. And yes, you need the hide of a rhinoceros. I always say to my students, "I want to be an actor," and I go, And they go, "Why? Well, you are." I went, "Yes, but I have the hide of a rhinoceros, and people have told me I'm dreadful or wrong or just ignored me so often in my life now. I just completely go, well, it's nothing to do with me, it's what they want." And I said, as long as you go into every audition going, unless I have the right colour hair, the right colour eyes, and the right height, it doesn't matter if I'm Sarah Bernhardt, they will not take me, because casting directors, and sorry if anybody's watching, casting directors are notoriously lacking in imagination. They have a brief and they stick to that brief rigidly.
Yeah, I think that actually it's really important as well to have some grace, because I remember when I was doing theatre and touring theatre, and in between working, I would just be dying for that role, living for that role. But actually, we have to be, whether we're actors or anything else, we have to be okay with what's going on right now and be living our life right now and not kind of waiting for the life that we think we want. So obviously you had a balance, but also you talked about the breakup of your first marriage. How was it balancing family and work like that?
Well, I didn't have any children, so that was easy. It was my second marriage when I did have children that obviously I came out of the business on and off on a number of occasions because I loved my husband, my second husband, who was the love of my life, my soulmate, just didn't want me to be an actor. And the reason he gave, which was really quite, in a way, quite flattering, was that he never wanted to be known as Mr. Evadne Fisher. So he couldn't cope with that. And I thought, well, when I think back at it, I thought, well, it's nice, because obviously he thought I was going to become very, very famous. The fact that he should be regarded, because you have to be extremely famous for your partner to be regarded as secondary to you. So I kind of thought, well, I suppose in a way that was kind of okay. But I adored him, so there's no way I was ever going to upset him. So I secretly took my audition to get into being a television announcer, and I didn't tell him until I got it. And I had already organised childcare and everything before I kind of said to him, I'm going to do this. And he kind of went, oh. So, well, we'll see about that. And I said, well, I'll go and do my 3 days training. At the end of the 3 days, I get a slot, and they see whether the audience like me, whether I do the job okay, if I've got the nerves, etc., what I look like on camera. If you watch the slot and see, tell me what you think. So I got home after doing it, and he went, yeah, you can do that job. You were pretty good, actually. And I went, oh.
Love that.
He said, I was kind of proud of you. I said, oh, thank you. So he let me do that. They also had a very good social club at Central, so he enjoyed going down there. And my boys enjoyed it as well. They met people like Grot Bags and Roy Bremer and places, people like that, and they just thought that was wonderful. So.
Amazing. So working at Central, I imagine then there was a lot of live. It was live presenting.
Oh, it was 100% live.
What was that like?
Continuity announcing is always live. What was that like? Well, it was great. You just have to imagine you're talking to your family or a friend or whatever. You can't imagine. I mean, at any time I could have been going out to 4.5 million people, which I know isn't a lot when you think of how many people are in the country, but it was just in the central area, in central East Midlands, most of it as well. And you kind of go, ooh. So if you thought about that, I think you'd probably disintegrate. So you don't. You just think about the talking to your friends.
Exciting times though, Evadne. That must have been
it was lots of fun. I mean, one of the jobs I got was because of that was ITV tried to do a telethon similar to Children in Need a couple of years after Children in Need started, and I carried and hosted the East Midlands section. So I hosted Mr. Telethon in the East Midlands. So I had all these lovely young men parading for Mr. Telethon rather than, in those days, you see, it was a different world. I'm talking about 1985.
You're talking about men in swimsuits.
Yeah, absolutely. Men in
budgie smugglers at the time.
Absolutely. It was brilliant. And Jason Donovan was there as well, so I met him. And it was such a lot of fun. So, and that was all live, so that was fun. And I also went to the Garden Festival in Stoke-on-Trent for that year that they hosted the Garden Festival. So on Saturday or Sunday or both, sometimes I'd go to the Garden Festival to the central tent, and that would be running all sorts of competitions live. Some of it on televised, some of it not. Some of it was just people, and I love all that anyway. So it's great. It's great fun.
I can imagine you were absolutely brilliant at it.
I just enjoyed it.
You're talking about what you love, and I can hear that you've had some really difficult times in your life too. What would you say is the hardest challenge, Evadne, you've ever had to deal with?
My husband's death. Bar none. That was horrendous, horrible. I lost my soulmate. I expected us to grow old. I'm getting emotional. Sorry. I expected us to grow old together. And I see, and occasionally I see a couple who are in their sort of 80s holding hands and things. I just think, oh, if only, but it wasn't to be. So, you move on and you try and make the best of living on my own. I sold the family house. I now have a lovely bungalow on the edge of a country park, which I absolutely love. And the house we lived in, our family house, was my husband's parents' house. They emigrated to Spain because my father-in-law had emphysema, and Michael bought the house from them before telling me, before we got married. So when we got married, I had to go into my parents-in-law's house. Now I knew it well because I'd met him first living opposite, so it was a place I knew very well. But I never ever, in the 40 years we were there, I never really thought of it as my home. even though I made it my home and changed every room, etc., etc. It was never really mine. It was always kind of the Fishers. The boys loved it, don't get me wrong. We brought up my stepson and my 2 sons in it, and we had, you know, it was a family house, dogs, cats, you name it. But this bungalow I chose, I sorted it. Everything in it is entirely my choice and mine, and I actually really enjoy that.
Yes.
I never had trouble living on my own. I think this was the point. In fact, I gave up 40 years with Michael not living on my own. If there's ever a silver lining losing your soulmate, the silver lining for me was suddenly I was my own woman again, my own boss.
Mm.
And being married to a man of his generation, however much he tried to be a modern man and learned to cook. And when he retired, obviously he was 10 years older than me, so he retired long before I did. Although he kept trying to persuade me to retire with him. And I'm thinking, oh no, 24 hours in the house. Oh, I couldn't cope with that. Which I think a lot of women do with their husbands if they were at home and their husbands retire. I'm thinking, oh no. Not that I'll ever retire anyway. But he tried very hard to be a modern man, but he was still born in 1939. So he still had some good old-fashioned values, and some not so good.
Well, you talked about the fact that you have got this thick skin, this rhino skin, and also, you know, I imagine that you're a very practical person. So apart from the practicalities of what happened, losing your husband, how did you actually deal with the grief of what happened?
Well, the first thing I did was go to bed for 36 hours and sleep with the dog. Because I'm a hibernator. When I'm sad, when I'm ill, I sleep. Maybe it's I don't know, is it right? It's running away. I know. And when I wake up, life is better, even if it's not. I just feel more positive about it. So that's how I coped. I used to, still do, look at his photo and talk to him. I talk to him every day. I'm a very clumsy person. And if I do something really stupid, I go, don't say a word. And then get on with my life. But I still do that. I've done that ever since. That's how I cope. He's you know, I like to think he's somewhere sitting, looking at me going, oh, she's done it again.
And
typical.
I'm sure feeling very proud as well with what you've done. So I know that you work as a director and you're an actor. So which do you prefer and why? Can you choose?
Gosh, it's difficult to choose. I love performing, but I also enjoy the directing, teaching, because you're kind of putting a little bit of yourself into someone else. That sounds awful, I know. But do you know what I mean? It's not the right way of putting it. But
being an actor, I absolutely know what you mean.
You know, yes, you're putting and putting a little bit of myself into somebody that I'm not reproducing. Is really very satisfying. I love teaching. I love children, so I absolutely love my teaching. Having sworn at 17 I'd never be a teacher, I actually find it probably equally as enjoyable, if not sometimes more enjoyable, than acting. I do love my students dearly, and the students I've had for the last sort of 30 years have become, a lot of them have become really close friends. And that's brilliant as well. So I watch them get married. I go to a couple of the weddings. I watch them have babies and everything else. And I just think, oh, you know, and I've had some influence on those people. So it's a bit of an ego thing, I'm afraid. But I guess, but I do love my teaching. But yes, I love directing because it's like teaching. But I'll always kind of be a bit of a ham actor at heart.
So, I think you mentioned to me that you do murder mysteries.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I'm a director of a murder mystery company called the Mystery Lounge. It's a community interest company. So we have a young lady called Natasha Mann Harwood, who is a brilliant writer as well as good actress. And I auditioned for her 5 years ago for one of her first ever murder mysteries. We got on like a house on fire, And gradually, having done 4 or 5 with her, we started a company together last year. As I was, funny enough, it was only yesterday I was saying to her, you do realise that the next 5 years you are going to have to find another director, because like I'm getting old and I'm not going to be able to do all the things that you want me to do now. I'm going to start forgetting stuff, etc. So start looking for, because there's 3 of us as directors. And I said, you need to start looking for a replacement for me, because I'm obviously not going to be in the front of my game for very much longer. And they need somebody younger anyway. At the moment, I'm there because of my experience and the fact that I can direct. So I direct the actors. And we've had this last year. We were all set to do a live thing, a live production in a venue, and then lockdown came. Luckily, the venue dropped through because, well, it hasn't dropped through because we're hoping to move back into it when this is all over. But at the time, it was decided, the council decided it was not fit to be a venue, so that's fine. So luckily we haven't had to pay the rent for a year, but we decided to move online, and we've now recorded everything, a 9 episode murder mystery. The reason it's different is very much and fits with the CIC is that it's interactive,
which is CIC stands for
Community Interest Company. So there are issues that we deal with within the murder mystery, as gaslighting, sexism, ageism, racism, bullying, transgender phobia, etc. We deal with all of those. We have a very varied cast. We have able-bodied and disabled in the cast, which is wonderful when you're doing it live. Nobody knows that as we're doing it as a radio type play podcast, but everything is represented, and we try and highlight those. And then we have, as well as the actual murder mystery, and the thing about it also is the audience choose the end. So we've recorded 6 ends, and depending on what the audience decide, who the audience decide the murderer is, and if they get the password, then we will use that end. At some point, we've recorded all 6, so at some point we'll probably release the ones that are they don't choose. And if they get it right and they've interacted a lot, there's a massive prize. There's a £200 Amazon voucher up for grabs for somebody. We've already had an interaction competition for chocolate, which went very well. But they're unique in the fact that they're so intricate, and Tasha hides clues all over the place. And we have this fictional place called Kiltondale, and this is the 4th play that she's written in Kiltondale with different characters, although some of the old characters kind of come back in, even if it's just a mention. One of the councillors of Kiltondale is someone who survived one of the previous murder mysteries, for instance, things like that. So there's always there's a thread through. She's a big Stephen King fan, so the fact that he has a thread through every single thing he's ever written, she has a thread through every single thing she writes. But yes, it's fascinating. I love it. I have a part in it, and I've also directed it. Tasha's written it. And also Tasha's dyslexic, so I double check everything she does. I edit and proofread everything for obvious reasons. So I'm quite handy there. But it's a wonderful genre, murder mystery. I don't know if you enjoy it. It's very popular, and it's fascinating. I love the reasons that people commit murder, and Tasha always comes up with such excellent reasons that the murderer does what they do. But this one, we've used the pandemic. They're all stuck in their panic rooms, and the pandemic is going on in the world around them, although none of them have any. They don't have to worry about getting it because they're all separate in their panic rooms. That's quite an interesting twist too.
Wow, it sounds extraordinary and so much fun. Anyway, hopefully you can give me some links, which I'll post below the video so people can find out more about you, more about that. Fantastic.
Okay. Yeah.
So what advice would you give to someone, Evadne, who is thinking about becoming an actor or who is already an actor and would really like to progress their career? You got some advice?
If you want to do it, don't let anyone spoil your dream and just keep trying. And sometimes it will take years before you get your break. Don't be shy about taking small parts. Don't be shy. To start with, apply for things like student films. When I came back into the business, I'd done a lot of student films. I worked with Derby University students and Lincoln University students and a couple of Trent University, Nottingham Trent University students. And the third years have to produce a film. And they're so much fun to do. But you learn a lot, and you learn what it's like to be on a film set without making a fool of yourself on a professional film set. Because there are so many things that you have to know that you can really do yourself, make yourself unemployable again if you do the wrong thing. So it's good to know how to behave on a film set, and you learn this with the students. If you want to be a theatre actor, just keep writing to theatres, writing to theatre companies, auditioning for them. There's Star Now, which is a good one to start at as a casting site. It's not a great one, but it's quite a good one to start with because they're not as demanding on experience. Mann is very good, and obviously Spotlight, but Spotlight's quite difficult to get on unless you've been in the business a little while or you've had a lot of luck early on, because you have to have earned a certain amount of money before Spotlight will accept you. Agent, obviously important. Write to every agent. There's a wonderful book, which I will get here, which is Actors Yearbook, Contacts. This is Spotlight. And that's got every agent in the land in, as well as every theatre company, every film company, every casting director. Get the up-to-date one of those and write. That's what I did. I wrote to every theatre in the land to get my, and although that isn't as possible now, they are still looking for good actors. So don't let anybody tell you you can't or you shouldn't. But at the same time, be aware of the fact it may not happen as quickly as you would like it to. And being a good jobbing actor is equally as satisfying as being a massive star. Stars come and go. Jobbing actors work their entire career most of the time. You'll find them in everything. Theatre and film and telly and commercials. And be happy with that. Be happy with whatever jobs you get. Give it your best, give it your all, and just know that the next one might not be the week after you finish this one. But keep your eye on the stars, because that's the only way you'll succeed.
That is such brilliant advice. Absolutely perfect advice. And I think, it's all very well having lots of talent, but actually you've got to be proactive. You've got to take the action and go out there and make it happen. So fantastic. So 2 final questions, Evadne. Of all the things you've done in your life, and you've done so many amazing things, what are you most proud of?
Producing my sons.
Oh,
I have 2 wonderful sons. One's a solicitor. Well, so he's now a sort of quite a high-class lecturer in law. But he wanted to be an actor. And he's such a good actor. He's a brilliant actor. But he's just over 6'6". And when he said I was to be an actor, I went, nah, not going to happen. And he went, why? I said, because you're too tall. And because of the ages. Now it wouldn't be so much of a problem if he was 18 now, but he's not. He's 40. And that means that he would have probably spent his entire career in a Wookiee suit. And he wasn't big enough width-wise to be a heavy. So he's instead he's a lawyer, so he uses all his acting ability, and he's also highly intelligent. So you know, he can get his satisfaction. He loves being in court, which of course is the actor in him. So he absolutely loves being in court. And my youngest one is musical and hasn't 100% found his way yet into the career that's going to last him forever. And his relationship was unfortunately a victim of the pandemic. But he's equally as wonderful, and I'm equally as proud of him because he is who he is too.
Beautiful.
You know, yeah, so that's the best thing I ever produced. 2 children. 2
Wonderful.
beautiful boys.
So when you are no longer on this planet,
Yeah.
how would you like people to remember you?
Kindly.
Lovely. Yes, perfect. So everyone, please check out Evadne's links. They're below this video. Get in touch, say hello. And all there is for me to say, Evadne Fisher, is thank you so much for talking to me. It's been really fun.
Thank you, Julie. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. You take care and stay safe, everybody. We're not through it yet, unfortunately, but soon.